my name's Priya Thoresen, and today I'm going to show you how to attach a handle to a cup. So before you get started, you're going to need to have some tools on hand. What I usually have is an X-Acto knife or some other knife tool, a needle tool. This would be a different knife tool you could use instead of the X-Acto knife or needle tool. Some sort of scratch tool. You could also use a serrated rib, but I like this kind of scratch tool because you can get in a smaller area. And you might also want to use either a brush or a rubber tip tool to get in areas where your fingers can't reach very well. And you will also need some clay, of course. You'll need the body of a pot that's already been made. It should be at the leather hard stage, which means that it's hard enough that it won't lose its shape if you touch it, but not so hard that it's already starting to turn color. And you'll also need some water or slip. I like to use slip because it's got a little clay in it already. So when the handle and the cup shrink, there's more clay in between there and there's less cracking. So let's get started. Before you make your cup and your handle, you might want to think about the different kinds of handles there are out there. This one here is probably a coil-built handle. This one here is a pulled handle. It's a pretty traditional pottery handle. And this one here is more of a pinched handle, which is the kind that I'm going to show you today. So I want you to start by taking some clay and just squeezing it into a longer coil shape. You don't need to hurry it too much, and you kind of twist it as you go, and this will keep it rounder. Once you get it about like this, you can start rolling it on the table. So I'm going to start with my hands together, and I'm going to gradually move them out, and also spread my fingers apart as I go. And I might, if I feel like it's getting flatter on one side, I might need to stop and flatten it again. So as you can see in comparison to this pot, this coil is a lot longer than I'm going to need. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and just cut off the extras, and I can put this aside for later. Okay, so this is probably about as long as I'm going to need it to be. So now at this point I'm just going to start pinching it a little more. And generally handles are more comfortable if they're smoother on the inside, because that's where your hand's going to grip. So I can put a little more texture on the outside, but I want to keep the inside pretty smooth. And you might also want to think about the size of this edge here. It looks nicer if it's tapered in a little bit. If it's just like a big flat block, it looks visually kind of heavy. Okay, so once I have this at about the right size and shape that I want it, I'm actually just going to let it set up a little bit, like that, for a few minutes and come back to it later. If your clay is pretty hard to start with, you don't need to do this. But depending on how wet your clay is, it might be good to let it stiffen up just a little before you handle it anymore. Okay, so getting back to our handle. We've let it stiffen up a little bit, and so now we're ready to attach it to the cup. There we go. So looking at this cup, I'm going to turn it around and decide where on the cup I want to attach it. Some cups, like this one here, are going to have a more front side or back side, or a place that it feels more natural to attach it to. With this one here, I guess maybe this spot might be a good spot. So I'm just going to mentally take note of that. And then I'm going to take my handle, and I'm going to think about what angle I want it to attach at. So looking at this, I can kind of visualize the angle, and then I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut it at that angle. There, I can put that aside. So this is the angle that I have it at, and does this look good to me? I think so. So, looking at it here, I'm going to take my needle tool, or you can use a wooden knife tool, and I'm going to draw around where I want to attach it. Let's see, yeah, that's about right there. And so then I'm going to take my slip or my water and my scratch tool, and I'm going to slip and score both the surfaces. So here I'm going to scratch in the circle that I drew. And then I'm going to scratch this spot here where I cut it. And keeping in mind that this is a lot drier than this, I'm going to probably want to scratch this, go back and scratch this one a couple of times. Okay, then once it looks like it's mixed up pretty good there, I'm going to go and take the two and push them together. Like that. And I might take my finger at this point and smooth it out where I attached it. Okay, so the top of the handle is attached, but the bottom isn't yet. So I'm going to take my handle and figure out what the angle is again, and decide where exactly I want to attach it, and cut the handle at that angle again. Moving this out of the way. For this cup, I'm kind of going for a handle that'll fit 3 or 4 fingers. I think the previous ones you saw probably mostly only fit 1 or 2. But as 3 or 4 finger handle, this should be pretty comfortable. And then I'm going to turn it so that I can see if it's evenly attached, because I don't want to put it off to the side or anything, which would be kind of uncomfortable. So I'm going to put it exactly where I want it to be. And actually, maybe this is a little too big still. Cut off a little more. There we go. So, once I know exactly where I want this to be, I'm going to trace around it again and scratch both sides, just like I did the first time. Okay, so bring back our slip and we're going to slip and score. And then just go ahead and squish them together. Okay, so the handle's pretty well attached at this point, but if you look closely you can probably see that there's some unevenness and just some slip oozing out around the edges. I guess you can't see it very well on the computer screen. But if you want to go back and try to get it where your fingers can't reach, you could try using one of these rubber tip tools. They're really nice. Just smooth out that corner there and up here. Or you could also try using a wet paintbrush, and that'll do pretty much the same thing. There we go, our handle is attached. And when you want to dry it, you're probably going to want to drape some plastic over it so that it dries evenly. Because as I said before, this part here and the handle are different drynesses, and so they're not going to shrink totally evenly. So thanks for watching, and good luck with your handles. Once again, you can find me at priyathoresen.com, and I'm also on Instagram.